Friends, welcome back to the Autry Benton Show. If you've been following us any time here lately, you know we're in campaign season, election season. We have a primary coming up, and we've had the privilege of sitting down talking to many candidates. The Agriculture Commissioner is a very important race, and we sit down with another one of the candidates today to get to know them better. Fred, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, brother. Thanks for having me.
So tell our listeners who you are and where you live at.
Yep, born and raised in South Carolina, so I'm a South Carolina boy. Grew up in what I would kind of call a tough family situation. As a teenager, I knew what it was like to be hungry.
Oh,
I knew
really?
what it was like to not know where we were going to sleep. Somehow by the hair of my chinny chin chin, I got into USC. And somehow by the hair of my chinny chin, I got out of USC, worked myself through college. And by the time I got out of college, I was focused on I didn't want to raise my family or do my family thing the way I went through it. So kind of picked a different pathway. Met my wife in college. We've been married 36 years. And I can say in that 36-year period, she has never wanted to divorce me. She's wanted to murder me a couple times, but she's never wanted to divorce me. So.
Well, let's go back a little bit. Man, thank you for being so honest, and I'm sorry you had it so hard growing up, man, but you comfortable telling me about growing up?
Yeah. We, my dad, who was a good dude, got into a financial situation, and sometimes people get in those situations and they just keep digging. And the family really didn't know about it, so I have an older sister, I have an older brother who's Down syndrome, and then me, and then my younger brother, and it was just us and my mom at times to figure out what to do. So. What's fascinating about that is at the time as a kid, especially a high school kid, you hate it. But as I got out and got into business and was around all different types of employees, from middle management to upper management to hourly employees, it's just fascinating how many people get caught in that economic quagmire.
Yeah.
And it's tough to get out. There's a lot of people in this state that live literally week to week. Mm-hmm. And you have one bad day, one bad thing, one bad phone call. Can really kind of throw them for a loop.
Absolutely.
So we kind of fought through it, moved around a lot. And again, my dad, I tell people he really never left me anything of real value, except he was the one who told me about the gospel.
Amen.
He was the one who said, there's a God, you need him, and he made a way for you to be with him. So
wow.
He's passed probably 10, 15 years ago. That I look back and think of all the hard times, but if you look at what really mattered as a dad, he leaned into that space and shared the gospel with me.
Yeah, man, thank you for sharing. If you mind me asking, I need your comfort level here now, but did your mom and dad, was your mom and dad always present, or was just your mom one thing?
Yeah, he would kind of come and go.
Okay.
Sometimes he'd be there, sometimes he wouldn't.
Yeah.
And so it was really just me and my mom. My sister was in college on a scholarship, so she had to focus on that. My younger brother was too young, so it was really me and my mom.
Okay.
So I worked. I had jobs in high school. I worked at a hardware store. I worked at a gas station. That was back when you used to pull up and there's a separate lane. They pumped the gas for you.
Yeah.
And then at night, like after 10 or 11, I would go to a daycare center and clean the daycare center before I went home for the night. So we just kind of pulled our efforts together and kind of kept things going. Again, it's pretty common as you get out and meet people. It's pretty common that you can just get in that hole and not know how to get out.
Yeah. Fred, do you remember as a kid just knowing this is not normal or this is different? Or
yeah, I mean, I think when it really started hitting, it was late middle school, early high school. So it was you knew, and it was odd. And we moved a lot. We could move 3, 4, 5 times a year to be someplace. Again, you feel an amazing amount of shame, even though you're not doing anything. You still feel shame to a certain degree. But then you just have this, hey, we got to take care of the family, and that's what I kind of leaned into and kind of grew up pretty quick. Tried to help my mom, help the family. So it was good for me in the end. Yeah.
How about school though? Was school easy for you as far as academics, or 'cause you're a smart guy, I can tell that.
Well, already. I mean, I think. There were times that I couldn't go to school because we could be moving, or maybe I had to work to bring him some money. And again, I think looking back on it, I finished at Irmo High School. And Irmo High School was at the time, it was like a university. It was a big school.
Yeah.
People really leaned in and helped, and teachers kind of knew something was going on, and they were able to kind of help. Wasn't the best student, wasn't the worst student. I knew how to work.
Yeah.
I knew how to apply myself and get through something. That's kind of what got me through it. Same thing at USC. I worked full time and then went to school. I wasn't the greatest student, but you know, I knew how to work. I knew how to get it done.
Yeah. So you said like getting into USC. Did you already have your mindset like I want a different path for myself, and not that the path you got on was your fault?
Yep.
I don't mean it by that,
Yep.
Fred.
Yep. It was definitely a thought process of, okay, if I'm going to have a wife and I'm going to have a family, which is what I wanted at the time, I knew I wanted something different.
Yeah.
And I didn't, you know, work is a good thing. Work is a biblical thing.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's
Work
something
is a
we're
blessing.
called to do. Yeah. So I never shied away from it. Wasn't exactly sure where I would end up. And,
Yeah.
you know, I didn't grow up. I tell people this all the time. I was not blessed enough to be born into a farming family. I didn't grow up in the farming industry.
Yeah.
But in 1999, when I went to work for Amick Farms, which was a South Carolina company, poultry processing company, it changed my life. It gave me so many opportunities to build my career and do things and get me to where I got to today.
Yeah.
So it's funny how you don't when the guy called, it was a buddy of mine. I was working for Ryan's Family Steakhouses, which at the time was the belle of the ball here in the state.
Oh, yeah.
And he said, I want you to go talk to these people at Amick Farms. And I said, well, what is Amick Farms? And he said, it's a chicken plant. I said, well, I'm not working for a chicken plant. I don't know what you're talking about. And he said, just go talk to them.
Yeah.
And I did, and got to meet the Amick family and the other executives, and they offered a job, and it changed my life. I mean, it just gave me so many other chances that I couldn't have planned it. I just couldn't have known back then that that's how this was going to end up.
Yeah. Let me step back with you just a minute. Something you mentioned, you know, your dad shared the most important thing with you, with the gospel. Tell me about that, how he presented that to you, with him being in and out of your life, but that critical thing, how that was presented to you.
Yeah, you know, we were a church-going family.
Okay.
Even going through what we went through, we were at church, so that was Sunday night, Wednesday, you know, whatever was going on, we were there. So we were around it, and you know, I can see, you know, my dad as a Christian. I think the thing that I look back as he kind of got to the end of his life, the thing that impressed me so much as a man who has two kids. Is he wasn't afraid to kind of lean in that space and talk about just the reality. And he did it this way. He said, look, there is a God.
Yeah.
You desperately need that God.
Yeah.
And he made a way for you to be with him.
Amen.
And here's what it is. So it was very simple. Again, being around church, you know, just things you hear and things you pick up by osmosis. But this is before things really kind of got sideways. So it was just an interesting kind of honest lean in. And he shared a little bit about, you know, how he came to know what the good news was. And that's something that I took forward with my kids. My kids, you know, we raised them in church, but we had conversations.
Amen. Amen.
And I think that's good for parents to do, is to really lean into their kids' lives.
Yeah, because our faith's got to be our own, right, Fred? I mean, you can't hang on mom and dad's coattails, you know. And I think a lot of people miss that, even in the church space or whatever, you know. It's got to be personal, you know, to you, you know, so for sure. Wow. So in college, you said you met your wife in college?
Did, yep.
Yeah, tell me about that, meeting your wife.
Yeah, we knew some friends together. And again, I was in school and still kind of working, and somehow they convinced us to go to a football game together, and it was an instant connection. And we just enjoy being around each other. I don't care if we're at Walmart or at home or on the road. We just enjoyed each other's partnership in life. It's been fun.
Yeah. Well, I want to brag on you now. Fred, as you know, I've only met you a couple times, been in your presence only a short amount of time, but one thing's very apparent to me was that you love your wife. I mean, you can be around some couples that you can tell they like being together, they don't like being together, but I can tell you and your wife are pretty close and y'all like each other's company, and I think that's special, man.
Yeah. She's a large reason, you know, why I was able to do what I was able to do. The pathway I took of really moving into ag took a lot as we grew as a company, and my responsibilities grew and changed, and I took on a lot of other duties. I was gone a lot, and we made a decision before we started having kids that she wanted to stay home, and she was there. So it was always something that I knew. She was with our kids, and then she was always real supportive of what I had to do in my job. So it's been a blessing. It really is. So
I ask all of my guests this, but tell me some marriage advice you'd give our listeners.
Geez, Pete, that one's got me on the corner there. I don't think you can ever say the words, I love you, enough. So I had had a friend, as I was going through things in high school, there was a family that kind of treated me like one of their kids. So if I didn't have a place to stay, they would kind of take me in, and just, I mean, I could be there, I could eat there, they take care of me. And I don't care if they were leaving the room to go to the kitchen, they would look at each other and say, I love you, I'll be right back.
Wow.
And at first I thought it was weird. I thought that's just bizarre.
Yeah.
But over time I realized, why not? Why not say it over and over and
Yeah.
over again? So she knows and I know, but there's just something about that. And I think that's another good thing to kind of show your kids. They say the best parents are working on the best marriage. That's
Amen.
the best thing for your kids. So I think those simple words can mean a lot.
Yeah, I think you just said it. The best gift you'll ever give your kids is a good marriage, right? Because that's what they desire more than stuff and more is that, I think. Don't you think, Fred?
Yep.
Yep. So tell me, so you got married. How long y'all been married now?
36 years.
36 years.
Yeah.
Tell me about your kids.
I have 2 kids. I have a son who's 31. He is chief resident at a hospital in Oxford, Mississippi.
Oh, wow.
Finishing up residency. He took a job in Wilmington, North Carolina, so they'll be in July kind of moving back to this space. He's married. And then I have a daughter who's 28, and she works for a nonprofit that is a psychological organization. She went to get her graduate degree in psychology, and she lives in Charleston. And her title is metadata analyst. I don't really know what that means, but it sounds really cool. And they're 2 good kids.
Yeah.
We've really been proud of them and told them, you need to go where God wants you to go. Don't feel like you got to stay close to home. So they've done well.
Sound like they're wildly successful. So tell us some parenting advice.
And I'll say this in that I preach it when I go around students, especially. 3 basic things. One is do hard things. Do hard things now.
Yeah.
Easier comes later. If you do easy things now, hard comes later. So do hard things, pick the hard teacher, pick the hard class, pick the hard career. I remember my son talking about med school. He was a good student, but that's a hard path. So I think to pick hard things it makes you rely more on your faith.
Yeah.
Right? If I can reach everything and do it myself, I really don't have a need for faith. So I always encourage them to really pick hard things. I think the other thing is you are making a decision every single day. You got to be intentional. I was on the school board at a little private Christian school my kids went to, and you'd see good Christian kids get in trouble. And I always love to ask the question, how'd you get here? What happened? And the answer is usually, hey, I didn't intend for that to happen. So I think I taught my kids, be intentional, because even being unintentional is intentional. So make sure you're looking at those little steps, because those little steps add up to sometimes big messes.
Yeah.
And then I think the other thing that both my kids picked up on that I think my parents taught it to me, but I learned it through the course of having help as a kid, serve people.
Wow.
Whatever it is. I don't care if you're a doctor, I don't care if you're a real estate agent, I don't care if you're in chicken, just serve the people you're around. Are the 3 things that I think was the best, besides the gospel, were the best things to kind of share with my kids.
Man, that's good stuff right there, buddy. Thank you for sharing that.
Man.
Good deal. So, married, kids, and you talk a little bit about your professional career. So, you got an opportunity in agriculture. So expand upon that again. Tell us the company you went with.
Yep. I was working at Ryan's Family Steakhouses, which was
Were you enjoying that?
I really was. I was handling the Southeast. I was handling the HR for the Southeast. It gave me an opportunity to.
So you had a big job already.
Well, I would have had to move to Greer to go to the next level. My mom was still here, so we kind of wanted to stay close to her. My older brother was still here, so we kind of wanted to stay close to Columbia. And when the call came, it was intriguing. It was a step up, so I went from kind of a regional HR guy to at Amick Farms. It was the first role I had was VP of HR. And Ryan's was wonderful in that you did everything in the stores. Even though I was a corporate employee, you were in the stores. So I handled the Southeast, traveled every single week. Got to hire a lot of people, learn about the industry, which is interesting because Department of Ag now inspects restaurants. So, it's something that I've got that understanding of how things go on that staff in that store. When my buddy called me about going to Amick Farms was a privately held family business, poultry processing. So almost all your chicken operations, poultry operations in the United States are fully integrated. So you control all the way back before the egg. You're getting breeders who make eggs. Those eggs go to our hatchery. We hatch them. They go to our growers. We feed them our feed. We have our vets. We have our way of growing them. Then we take them to our plants, process them, and we literally sold product all around the world. When I started Amick Farms, It was one plant, one shift, about 600 people. When I left Amick Farms, we were 3 plants, 3,500 people. We were processing 4 million birds a week, and we were about a $2 billion a year sales company, selling all over the world. So it was just again, a blessing to be kind of adopted into agriculture, and then to experience being pushed into things more than just HR. So through my time there at Amick, I handled everything from HR to safety, QA, food regulatory affairs, IT, engineering. I ran the processing plants for a time. I ran the live operations for a time. And then I was on the merger and acquisition team as we kind of looked to grow. I was one of the first guys who would go in and really kind of sit down with folks. And there were times in that process that I would, in my head, be thinking, they don't know who I am. They shouldn't let me do this. I'm not qualified. I don't come from that kind of family. I didn't go to Yale, whatever those things are. But it just gave me so much. And even retiring at 59, so a couple, 3 years ago, I retired at 59. I never in my life thought I'd retire. Never thought I had that option. And I remember Michelle and I sitting down talking about how we had a debt to pay. Back to South Carolina Ag and to South Carolina. It's just been that good to us. Send our kids to college, send my son to med school, my daughter to grad school. The people we've been able to help through the years is all because agriculture gave me that opportunity.
Wow. Well, I appreciate you saying that. You know, and like you said, you didn't grow up in the agriculture community, but you went to work there. Did you like the ag community, you know?
What's fascinating about ag is very familial. So once you're in, you're in.
Yeah.
It's just like you become part of this family. And,
Right.
and poultry was, timber is probably the largest segment of the ag industry in our state. Poultry is probably the second largest. It's a unique business. Poultry is unique, but ag in general is unique. But just some of the most I'm a people guy. I want to be around folks. I want to serve folks. I like seeing people grow. That was one of my biggest things I enjoyed the most in my career was helping somebody move up that ladder or helping the business grow. So it's very familiar. It is. There are no easy jobs in ag. I don't care what you're growing.
It's hard work.
Yeah, it just is. And again, I grew up thinking that was what we're supposed to do is hard work. So it kind of fit, my vision of kind of wanting to do. And I think the other piece about ag that I have enjoyed is even Amick, as we grew and became more people, you never turned into this corporate kind of top-down mindset. It was very flat. Everybody jumps in. I mean, you look at farming out in rural South Carolina, if somebody's got a problem, their neighbors are coming jumping in. There's no, well, I'm a president of this or owner of that, or I don't do, everybody jumps in. And I'm just the type that loves to kind of get dirty, get my hands on things, and then try to fix things.
Yeah. And the other thing is that you said, I want to go to is there's a business side to any business, right? If you're selling paper clips or if you're selling stocks or if you're into ag, there's a business side, right? Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, for the last 13 months, I've been campaigning since last January. So for 13 months, I've been telling people agriculture is a business. If it's not, we're all in trouble.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just that simple.
Yeah.
There's a phrase that agribusiness is the term you hear, and at a forum, one of the guys that's running with me in the race questioned where that word came from. It came from the 50s, mid-50s, when agriculture was really transitioning from a subsistence farming, a homestead farming model into a business model, which meant you had to take into account storage, distribution, marketing, further processing, all the pieces that went along with it to really make it a business that somebody could survive on. And I'll say this about South Carolina ag right now, we're at a crossroads. I mean, there are farmers who are, they're barely surviving. And once ag land goes out of production, it doesn't come back. So we've got to help them. We do not have, the best way I would describe it to people is we do not have a farming problem in South Carolina. We have a business problem. The markets they work in, the markets they need, the opportunities they have to be able to sell their products. We've lost processing in the state. I'm proud of our state and that we've gotten really good at recruiting planes, trains, and automobiles, right? The Boeings, the BMWs, the battery plants, the tire plants. Those are wonderful things. I want to be that good at recruiting agribusiness. I want to recruit more processing here, more further processing, more food processing here, because I think we're a great place to be. We're number one, number two, number three in the nation. every month for people relocating
Yeah.
here. So it's a great place to be. We've got a good story.
Yeah.
I just want to be that guy. I remember at AMIC we bought 2 plants, probably looked at 8 through the years. And I remember walking in those meetings as I was, again, the first guy. Sometimes people are really good at recruiting and sometimes they were horrible at it. And when you're talking about investing at the time, $100 million, the economic development dollars has to math. Math has to math. But the bigger thing we were focused on was, do they want me? Do they need me? And when you're investing that much, you want to make sure that it's not going to turn around on you in a year and people say, well, we don't care if you're here or not. So I think I've learned how to approach, companies and recruit well to the state because I was recruited. And I saw it the good way and the bad way. So that's just one thing I'm a big believer in that's going to help bring, the word I used for the last year has been, prosperity is not a bad word.
Oh, no,
and
absolutely
I think our
not.
farmers, prosperity helps at home, helps at church, it helps at work.
Absolutely.
So we've got to find those opportunities for our farmers to help them prosper. That will solve a lot of the issues that they have.
Yeah. And Fred, I think you said it, finish your business career up. I said you wanted to give back to the ag community. That's why you're running for this.
Yep.
Have I hit it on there?
Yep.
And we've said it before, but agriculture is our #1 industry. Am I right in saying that?
A little over 52 billion economic impact.
That's a big deal.
Tourism's second. Well, they're kind of right there at each
Yeah.
other, but ag's kind of one more above it, kind of.
I don't think most South Carolinians recognize that, And the ag commissioner does a lot of things, but you already hit it once. One of the most important things I think it does, I don't think, and we're trying to let our listeners know it is, inspect our restaurants. Every restaurant you eat in is inspected by that. You want to talk about that, how important that is?
Yeah, I think it was 3 years ago, the General Assembly broke up DHEC and gave pieces and parts to different agencies. Well, the Department of Ag got the restaurant inspection. So 23,000 facilities in the state. That's food trucks, cafeterias, restaurants. And that is coming from the restaurant industry at Ryan's Family Steakhouse, is seeing the internal things we did to make sure that we were doing things properly for safety reasons, not just for fun, but it was people can get sick, people can get hurt, kind of a thing. To see how important that is to our state, that a lot of people will hear Department of Ag or Commissioner of Ag, and the first thing they think of is farmers, and that's not wrong.
That's right.
But that Department of Ag touches every citizen in this state, whether it's the restaurant inspection piece or the gas pumps or the grocery store scales that we go in and make sure are correct. There's a huge consumer protection piece of what Department of Ag, about 50% of the compensation in Department of Ag is related to compliance.
Yes.
And a compliance operation is actually kind of interesting because through my years at AMIC, I would have QA or food safety or HR and IT and all those things are compliance type mechanisms inside your business. You lead those differently because it's so easy for them to fall on one side or the other. In other words, too hard or too soft. So you're constantly having to keep it that, again, you want to hold standards. You want to make sure our restaurants are doing just the best job they can, but you still have to make sure they're making a living, right? That they're able to stay in business. So it's an interesting, as an executive going through those years, it's interesting to lead those departments. It's just different in how you're constantly trying to make sure that you're doing both.
Yeah.
You're serving the citizens by making sure that they know what they're walking into, but you're also serving that industry to make sure they can stay viable.
And not just put words in your mouth. I think to me that always comes down to just be common sense.
Yep.
Be common sense.
The thing that I think is most important in the ag space, which again, food, it all begins to kind of come together. It's relational, right? You got to have that relationship. I remember we would have, when we were processing birds at the plant, we would have federal inspectors in our plant. It was the law, so they had to be there. And I always wanted to have a relationship with them. I would much rather for them to come to me and say, have y'all ever thought about this? Because it might not be something they can make me do, but it might be a great idea.
It's how they approach it, right?
Exactly. And I wanted to be approachable. I wanted to make sure that they knew they can go to Fred and say, I almost saw Bob do this over here. Well, if he almost did it, then I have a chance to go teach somebody and correct it if they wait to let somebody do something. So I think that relationship of an inspector going into a restaurant, to know who's there, to understand that our restaurant industry, I mean, their turnover is just as bad as any other piece of ag. So the person you've got today that is fully trained and knows what they're doing, in 3 days, they might not be there. So I think being helpful while also holding standards is hard.
Yeah.
It's easier to pick one or the other. But I think as a leader, I've learned through the years how to pull that off to make sure that you're being successful at what you're doing.
Yeah. Quickly running out of time, I'm going to shift real quick. Lots of timber mills have shut down in South Carolina, and you said the words make opportunities. What's some of your ideas to help our timber industry in South Carolina?
So I think that's a perfect example of we've got to be great recruiters at bringing that here. And it's not just bringing even a pulpwood processor. Who are their customers? How do we go get them here? I mean, we're just a great state. We're a great place. The thing that I learned in industry was I knew who wanted us because they were usually in my lobby wanting to talk to me. They were building that relationship. Go back to Carol Campbell. I was talking with some of the crew beforehand about BMW, and Carol Campbell spent probably a year just relating and talking and relating and talking before there was any paperwork involved in the process. So I think that relational piece, letting them know you're going to be there for them, that you're going to help them, that you want them, you need them. I think that there's a few projects right now that I think are coming that'll help with the timber processing piece. But my bent is, if you only get one or two, that's not enough. Right? We've got to have enough options that a timber farmer can pick how they want to do their business. You know, some people might want to export. They might love it. They might be close to the port, and it might work out money-wise that it is better for them. Somebody more in the upstate might want something a little different. So I think you just never stop, is the way I would say it. You know, in ag, you never stop recruiting customers. You never stop recruiting employees. You never stop recruiting the community because you needed them, and you just did it all the time.
Yeah, love it. We're finishing up. Where can they find out more about you and your campaign and what you want to do?
Website is gowest.sc. Facebook is Fred West for Commissioner. Would love to share more about what I'm doing and what I'm seeing and what I'm thinking. Excited about where things are. I will tell you this, and I said this to a group a couple weeks ago. The other candidates, there's 4 candidates in the race. They are all good men. I mean, they are wonderful people. They love ag. They love South Carolina. I can't say anything bad about them. I'm the only guy that has decades of experience as an executive running a complex agribusiness operation that I think this position really requires. It's a constitutional office, so it's not by appointment. It's not by endorsement. It's not birthright. It's not what your family does. It's truly the voters of South Carolina deciding who they want to hire for this chief executive role of that agency. And I learned in hiring, after hiring thousands of people through the years, you never hire based off the title. You always hire based off the job description of what needs to be done. So I'm excited to share that. I'm excited to talk about Department of Ag. I think it's great for people to understand what it really does and all the ways it touches their lives. But
that's good.
Excited, having a lot of fun.
That's good. Well, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, brother.
Yes. Folks, thank you for joining us today. There's a primary coming up. Your vote does count. As he just says, the people get to choose who the ag commissioner is, and that's you. Make sure you take advantage of your American right and go vote. Join us next time.